the conversation now, and OPEC Plus meeting is today. We have Juliet Adenuga, Head Treasury of Financial Derivatives. Thank you so much for joining us, Juliet.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you.
Yes. So the meeting is today, and the group is already projecting that oil demand will rise by 6 million barrels a day from the 5 million from this second half of the year. How will this affect Nigeria?
Okay. The projection, it's based on the outcome of the Iran deal discussion with the U.S. There's been a sanction that is, cutting on the production and other activities that has to do with Iran's, oil production. So, in global terms, it depends on what the outcome becomes. Already, Iran is gearing up towards that. But for Nigeria, we know that Nigeria is part of the OPEC Plus.
Yeah.
And OPEC Plus is working on increasing output by a 500,000 barrels per day. We know that that is not going to be significant enough to have an impact on price. It's not going to affect the price of crude, because OPEC is just about, the total production by OPEC is just about 33% of the 96 million barrels per day produced globally. So if there is a 500,000 increase in output by OPEC, it's just going to add about a 0.5% increase in total global output, and just about a 1.5% increase in their own output. So it's not going to have much impact. Nigeria is a price taker in all this. We are just more, we respond more to output,
yes,
because we earn more when more is produced. But you know what is happening with OPEC Plus? They are controlling supply to ensure that they maintain that price that makes them still gain, because they are oil-dependent economies and they cannot play with what happens.
So what do you think will happen with the issue of, the UK, a lot of countries are closing their borders, at least for tourism, with the UK because of the Delta variants, and this is also reducing demand. Yes. So what do you think how is that going to affect it?
Yeah. With reduction in demand, it's going to affect what is earned. At the peak of COVID, you know how this OPEC Plus agreement started? At the peak of OPEC, they knew they were in danger. Why? You cannot just let them produce and everybody dump into the market. If you produce and dump, it will crash price. Yes. And all of us are going to be in trouble. So they had to influence, kind of put a bottom on the price. So if closures begin to take place because of Delta again, OPEC will still come into play to ensure that they control supply. And once supply is controlled, it affects Nigeria. I hope you know that Nigeria is still under sanction.
Yes, we're under sanction, 1.5, yeah.
We are still on 1.3. So by the end of, probably by July, we'll start producing.
This is July.
Yes, yes, now we'll start producing. So it's not a free-for-all, just do anything you like. You are in a cartel, you go by the rule. So if globally it's going to become disadvantageous in terms of demand, Nigeria will have to go with OPEC. OPEC will still work out something that will make them not to lose out in the long run in terms of pricing, because they gain from pricing. Okay. They just take price and they gain from output, so they manipulate output so that they can earn optimally.
All right, but what kind of price action can we expect after the meeting?
After the meeting?
Yeah.
I've told you that the 500,000 increase won't have much impact on global price.
So we'll still stay within this range?
We're still going to stay around this range, 70, 80, if anything will happen.
So we're hoping that even though the lawmakers have missed the June target for the PIB, and they have said that we should get it today, what is your expectation?
I'm expecting that it's likely to still, if it doesn't come out today, maybe by tomorrow, because it's been long overdue.
Over 10 years.
10 years.
We've been on this matter. I really don't understand why it's taking so...
That's a long time.
It's something that we must get to, because it's supposed to open up investment. It's supposed to bring relief. We know that one of the key things is this subsidy issue. If it is passed, that means that subsidy becomes illegal. And we know what subsidy will do, even though it's going to bring increase in price. Initially.
And you projected about 283 per litre?
That is that's the landing cost now. The government is paying 118 naira per litre of fuel a Nigeria buys at 165 in the filling station. That is huge. If you bring it down home, even what leaks out as illegal, like smuggling gets down to as high as 3.54.
I think even the NNPC complained about smuggling last week. Yes.
Because suddenly output shot up to about 90 million liters per day consumption. But we know in reality we're on 60 million. So what happens to 30 million? People are smuggling out.
But
People
you
are
did
cashing
say,
out because it's more beneficial. You know, it's more beneficial for them out there
Yes,
because
when
they
they
earn
sell it
forex.
illegally, yes.
But,
So-
but you did mention that we should expect price increase for now. For the PMS, that's when if the bill is actually passed.
Yeah.
So is it possible that we could see, the price taper down after a while? Because you said the price will increase for now.
The price, presently, and actually the government already announced today that for July, there will be an
Yes,
increase.
yes.
So we are
We
resting
have
on
our
that.
monthly, we have our monthly
monthly
release.
assurance.
So we are
All right.
resting on that first. For now, we know there won't be, but we have to understand that there is a direct relationship between landing cost and pump price. And anytime it is increasing, that means that the landing cost is higher. And that means that the government is subsidizing more. We should bear it at the back of our minds and know what is actually happening. And once the government is subsidizing more, capital projects are suffering.
Exactly, infrastructure,
Infrastructural deficits will keep increasing. We will not get to the level of output we are supposed to get to as a nation. Jobs won't be created.
refineries can be fixed.
They can't even be
Refineries,
fixed.
yeah.
And people will keep suffering. So it's a cycle that, if not handled from the root source, we'll just keep dancing around it. And dancing around
Vicious
it.
cycle.
Okay,
Yes.
so let's move to some other hot issues now, and hope that by the end of today we would say that the PIB has been
Hopefully,
yeah.
yes, passed. So we also have that in February, the Minister of Power revealed that the federal government spends over 50 billion naira monthly to subsidize electricity. That's another important thing in the country. In April, the FG was at loggerheads with World Bank because the World Bank says that $1.5 billion was being spent. Now the issue of electricity subsidy is coming again. We are talking of how to discard
Another
the one
subsidy.
for PMS. We are talking of the one for electricity. Where are we?
In actual sense, we can't really discard subsidies till we do away with them. There was a reduction about
30 billion?
40%. It
Yes,
was 50.
yes.
It was 50 billion that the federal government
So now it's 30
It's now
billion.
30. Do you know what's the cost? Discos have improved in their collection.
They've
Now
improved.
they've become more
Okay.
efficient. Those leakages, I know you're a NEPA official, let me pay 2,000 instead of 20, all those, they've been able to efficiently block those leakages, and they've been able to collect more. And with that, you notice now that the government is relieved of about 20 billion, and all things being equal, hopefully, they can be able to have room to play around and invest in more capital-intensive projects that will benefit everybody.
So more metering, I want to believe. We have maps, they're supposed to mop up the unmetered Nigerians. So more metering, more revenue, less subsidy,
Yes.
more money for infrastructure. Is that
Yes,
the equation?
That is it. But, people are not eager to hear that. You know why? Because the problem is not actually with paying the tariff. The problem is supply. I know of a friend that spent 20,000 naira one of the weeks in June for alternative source, buying petrol. Light was so poor. So Nigerians are not really complaining because, in actual sense, Nigeria is one of the countries that pays the lowest electric tariff in Africa. So there's still room. And we should understand that the power sector is capital intensive and needs funding. So for private investors to even be attracted to the sector in the first instance, price should be attractive enough for them to want to come in and make profit. So there's still room even for increase in tariff. We should understand that.
Okay.
But the challenge Nigerians have is, it's not that you want to, they don't trust. They have trust issues because these things have been happening over and over. You tell me you want to increase my tariff. I know they increased at least once last day. You increase it. I don't get it. Someone like me, I was on about 7,000 per month before that increase. I've gone to 15,000. And I still spend up to sometimes 20 to 25 on alternatives,
power. On alternative
sources. So the problem Nigerians have is not with,
But it
giving them, but
still puts
improving on the
pressure on
supply.
disposable income, though.
Of course.
Disposable income is, I don't know how people are surviving. Disposable income is
Well said.
dead.
But when the privatization of the power sector was announced and we're told private sectors are coming in, I think a lot of people just expected that the private sector will come with some money, get infrastructure and get the sector working. Then we will pay. But I mean, this is how many years down the line, and we're still talking of what the government needs to do this, we need to do this. What happened?
The challenge is, most times when we talk about deregulation, it's not usually total in Nigeria. It's not usually total. There'll still be that hand somehow, not the invisible hand, the hand manipulating things somehow. Because if on a good day it was fully deregulated, then would have been over this now. Because if I, a manufacturer of, let's say, plastics, have been having steady supply of electricity or power for the past 5 years, by now my operating costs would have dropped, and it would have affected the price of that plastic.
Exactly.
So in the long run, people would have started benefiting, reaping from that. But because of those...
in fact, like you talked about the disposable income, it will also come around to affecting that.
Even it will create employment. People will get more jobs. People will have, their incomes will get, stronger.
Yeah.
Because once the price is contained, that is what contains inflation.
Okay. But in February, the World Bank approved a $500 million support to the government in improving electricity, the distribution sector. How well has that impacted the sector?
What I know they did was to, make available more meters for people, because it's actually more beneficial to use the prepaid than to let them determine. They can estimate and come with 70,000 for you. But I know it had helped them to be able to get meters and to be able to replace enough for people. And most times people didn't have to pay for that. So I think that in that direction, the challenge we have here is not in this country mainly is how do we appropriate what we've gotten? Most
accountability?
Accountability. There is no rule of law really in place. There is institutional decay. Do you get? So that keeps affecting the results we get. Wow. In everything we pursue.
Just before our time is up, let's not forget our commodities.
Oh, yes.
So commodities market, the price of flour is up by almost 10%.
Wow, that's big.
What happened?
And it's not ending there, because...
It's still going up.
Oh, it's likely to still go up. It's on 15.5 now. It's likely to still move up to probably 17, because they are getting Forex from $470.
There we go again. It has gone up. That's a Forex.
So are you going to afford your bread now?
It hasn't happened to you. My daughter, I had to drag with my daughter the other day. A loaf of bread I usually bought $3.50. She came home and said it was $500. I was sure they cheated her.
Wow.
But alas, it was the price.
So we're going to go dieting. We'll do vegetables.
Vegetables? Are they cheap? Are they cheap?
What alternatives do we have to flour? More expensive alternatives. Yeah. Anyway, take us through the other, commodities price movement.
Yeah, the FX index increased by 2.58%, just meaning that there wasn't so much difference from what we had last month. You notice that tomatoes and pepper, they are the most expensive now. Their percentage is out of, and usually it's seasonal to a large extent. At the peak of rainy season, usually, because those crops are not really rain friendly. At the peak of the rainy season, they don't have it, and we know that production hasn't and planting hasn't been. It's been suboptimal because of insecurity issues, and the rains came a little bit late this year. So apart from that, apart from the flour and the tomatoes, the gari, a little increase, but basically others like rice. Rice, festives.
Rice don't change.
It's still flat, a little bit flat. Cement, when the rain is high up there, people don't, construction goes down, and then even building, because it becomes not so active. So in general, there hasn't been so much. Things haven't dropped. The price of things haven't. I don't know if the market you go to. My own market, things are still expensive.
Well, you see the agricultural commodities. You see wheat is down, corn down. Only cocoa is actually up at this moment. So what's driving that?
For the cocoa, what could be driving cocoa now might be the fact that cocoa was initially cocoa we know is in Nigeria, for instance, cocoa isn't what we depend on for export.
But I mean, last time we spoke to FDC, they said there's a new variant now.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, that is more productive.
Yes, but it is new. It's actually new here.
Yes.
We've not yet fully, started implementing and maximizing it. So it's still relatively new.
Yeah, we're still looking for how to spread it.
How to spread it and how to sell it. Sometimes you really need to even sell it to these farmers for them to buy it and buy into the idea and, come out of the, the traditional way they've been doing it.
Because somebody like Laddie is very old school.
He's very old school and very rigid.
He doesn't like All right, we have to thank you so much, Juliet, for joining us this morning. Good to see you instead of just doing virtual.
Thank you
in person.
Yes. Good to have you, and thank you so much for sharing your opinion with us.